Welcome back. Do you suffer from sinusitis, arthritis or hay fever? If you do, you could have a food intolerance.
Now, here to tell us a bit more is Martin Healy from the Fitzwilliam Food Test Clinic. You're very welcome to the morning show.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay. Just explain to us the difference between a food allergy and a food intolerance.
Yeah, the difference, Martin, is essential, because with a food allergy, it's so obvious. It's the first thing. Like if someone has an allergy, let's say to prawns, you have your prawn cocktail for starters, you never make it to the main course. You're in the bathroom because it hits you immediately. But if you're intolerant to the prawn, you have your prawn cocktail for starters, you have main course, dessert, tea and coffee afterwards, but it's the next day it hits you, and it causes all manner of problems, from stomach, bloating, irritable bowel, to eczema problems. But the sinister aspect of food intolerance is that there is no obvious or immediate connection. So most of your listeners suffering from food intolerance don't actually know it.
So it's really hard to detect, but there are big offenders when it comes to food groups. What are they?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of primary culprits, Claire. I mean, the dairy is well recognised as being a primary culprit. Eggs are a primary culprit. Wheat and gluten, citrus fruits, some of the nut families. I mean, these culprits cause inflammation. The essence of food intolerance is it triggers a process within the immune system which triggers inflammation. So many of these most common conditions, like these people with rheumatoid arthritis, all of their joints, they're inflamed. People with eczema problems, the skin is inflamed. People with chronic sinus problems, the mucous membrane is inflamed. All these huge numbers of people who have stomach, digestive, irritable bowel problems, the gut is essentially inflamed. So this concept of inflammation is behind most of these conditions.
Well, they cause the condition.
Yes, the essence of all of those conditions, asthma, eczema, irritable bowel, arthritis, it's an inflammation condition. And the food is what is triggering the inflammation. Let's take hay fever. We all understand pollen causes hay fever. Hay fever is an inflammation condition. You know, we see them in the summertime, people with inflamed eyes, their sinus sneezing continuously. I know someone who has hay fever, and he often talks about wanting to put his hand in his throat to scratch and tear. It's inflammation. But come September, once the pollen is gone, bingo, everything is gone. Inflammation gone. So the same concept applies to arthritis, sinusitis, irritable bowel. You can stop the inflammation, Martin, if you can find the trigger.
So, for example, if somebody, say, has joint problems and, say, will have maybe a knee replacement, a hip replacement, you're saying that if they don't take care of a possible food intolerance, they may be wasting their time.
Well, I had somebody in yesterday, Martin, and he had 3 joint replacements, both hips and the knee. So replacing the knee doesn't stop the disease process. It doesn't stop the inflammation. And he knows himself, it's only a matter of time before the 4th joint will have to be replaced. But I explained to him, and now he understands, because you see, he had ongoing stomach problems, and he began to recognize that he has a small connection with foods. He has this bloating feeling. So what's happening to this man is these foods he's intolerant to, it's poisoning his system, and that is the essence.
When it comes to testing for it, how do you go about it?
Now, over the years, I've been involved for nearly 30 years with this, Claire, and in the early years there were no blood tests. It was trial and error. It was called the elimination diet, essentially, where we removed all what we suspected were the primary culprits, and then one at a time you reintroduce, and it's testing. It was an ongoing process.
Trial and error.
Trial and error, essentially, Mark. But in the last 12 years, a new generation of blood tests have arrived. They're called IgG blood tests. And I was the first to introduce this blood test here in Ireland. And this new blood test looks for a specific marker. It's called an antibody. And there is now a substantial volume of evidence, published evidence, stating that the body produces this marker to try and block the food that you're intolerant to. And all they do in the lab is they measure if you're producing this marker against particular food. So I take your blood sample, Claire, and let's say if you have arthritis or irritable bowel, the test will tell me you're producing these antibody markers. Let's say it could be egg, wheat, gluten, whatever the case may be. So all you have to do then, you avoid that culprit food.
Comes at a cost though, doesn't it, these tests? I mean, although it doesn't take as much time now and there isn't the trial and error element to it, it's costly.
The tests are reasonably expensive, Claire, but imagine what it costs to have a knee replacement. Imagine what it costs to have both hips, both knees replaced. I mean, you're talking about thousands of euros.
Yeah. So how much does it cost?
There are 2 tests available. There's a standard test, it's a 40 food test, which covers many of the primary culprits. It's 135 euros. Okay. Now there is then a more extensive, for more complex conditions, which covers a far broader, it's a more comprehensive. It's 255 euros. I mean, they are the costs involved.
Well, like you said, cheaper than surgery.
Absolutely.
And not as painful.
It's painful, absolutely.
Martin, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you, Martin and Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now don't forget, if you've missed any of the programme, you can catch it online at tv3.ie/3player.
And that's it for today. Tomorrow we speak to the solicitor of Father Kevin Reynolds, the priest defamed by RTE's Mission to Pray programme, about the impact of that programme on his client.
The Midday Girls are up next. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 11. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.